Welcome to the Raw, Real, Reignited podcast, where raw emotions meet real life experiences. Join us as we dive into the unfiltered life stories of men who are reigniting their lives, sharing their struggles, and navigating a path forward from the highs and the lows to the triumphs and setbacks. We'll explore what it means to be a man in today's world. Get ready for honest conversations, new perspectives, and inspiration to fuel your own journey. Strap yourselves in to reignite our lives together. Welcome to the second episode of Raw Real Reignited. Welcome, Drew. Welcome, Sal. Welcome, listeners. Hope everyone's well and enjoying life. How are you boys today?
Not bad, mate.
It's like Sal's
What's been going on?
a bit cold out there in southern Queensland, mate.
Yes, the tropical background. I'm freezing. Actually, it's quite. It's like when you're sitting in an ice bath and you're watching a show on penguins. It's probably not a good thing. But anyway, how are you, Drew?
Yeah, mate, I'm good. Yourselves are going really well. It's been another good week, another good day. It's just how it rolls. But yeah, we just every day's on the up now.
That's good. That's good. So, what are we going to head in today, boys? I think we'll get into someone else's story this week. We'll get to have a listen to who's going to put their hand up. Who wants to shine?
I've only got little hands, so
So, is it up or not? I can't see from here, mate.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. I'll go.
Share us a few of your highs and lows, Drew, and where you come from, where you've been, and
Yeah,
where you
sure.
want to go.
Where I want to go is to the top. We're going total world domination, and it's I jest. As in episode one.
need some
Hey.
heads to roll, Drew.
As in episode one, I want to get that safe space going for everybody and really roll on with Reignite. Um, but a few different irons in fires as well in regards to career and things as well, and family especially. Got good plans for family, good plans for where I want to end up in regards to life and like living and those kinds of things, which they'll come about because as we covered in the last episode, I'll manifest a bit of where we're headed. Obviously, the timelines, much like a lot of other stuff that we've spoken about on and off over the years, the timelines are a little bit off, but everything else has really started to come to the fore. So that's basically where I'm headed at the moment. My story starts much the same as yours, Benny. Hard-working family in Newcastle. Both parents worked pretty hard. Went to grew up the heavy kid, obviously. Like now I weigh less now than I did when I was not 16 years old. So it was one of those things where you were the fat kid, and basically my nickname at school was Newman. If any of you guys remember Seinfeld, and Newman lived upstairs, the postie. I was the fat kid with glasses, so that was where that came in. It was the 90s, Newcastle in the 90s. So everything was a bit harder than what life is, especially now when words hurt and things can really be upset and misconstrued the wrong way these days, where before you just had to wear it on the chin. It was to the point where I would make myself physically ill so I didn't have to go to school. But I don't look back and think that it was that traumatic. It was more later on when things started to come together in life, and you go, well, and a lot of that lack of self-worth led into the reason why I was in relationships like I was, and then why different things happened to me in my adult life, which were there to teach me a lesson. I never always picked up on that lesson, so I had to learn things the hard way and grind stuff out. And because I grew up sort of with different things that have happened and carried different traumas along the way, and that led into and bled into my adulthood, where you do become that bloke that you see on the TV, and you see there's things written about him where he's just digging in. He's still doing the work he's got to do to keep his family together, keep his family fed, keep the roof over the head. Didn't matter what you did, you just dug in and went through it all. And regardless of what that personal sacrifice was, and you became that person. I did join the bushies way back when I was 17 years old. I always wanted to be a firefighter and was never able to straight away. The very first instance for that was to go into the bushies. Did that for a number of years. 2007, I went from there into the career, into the permanent ranks, and have been there ever since. There's been a bit of time where, or in recent times, where I had a couple of years off. I was forced. And then back to work now, hitting goals, loving the job, because the job was always the best anyway. Obviously, along with that comes all the different exposures and things that you get from jobs and different people and things along the way. But what I've come to learn is by going into that role of the rescuer was because there wasn't always someone around that I could confide in as a kid, and like a lot of stuff I dealt with internally, a lot of stuff I dealt with on my own. A lot of times it was my sister and I, and we did a lot of the stuff. We were each other's backbone basically for especially our sort of teens, going through that. What else? I suppose I've learned a lot of the stuff that I've had to go through in my adult life, especially the last sort of 15 plus years. It has come off the back of a lack of self worth, and we know the story for that, and things that have happened in the space of relationships. A lot of things that I learned, not only about others but about myself as well. And you can't always please everybody. You can't always please everybody else to be able to get to fill everyone else's cup from an empty cup. It doesn't work. You burn out basically. There was one point where I was working 5 jobs and still being able to be primary caregiver for my eldest daughter, and we things still weren't getting bills paid. There was all different sorts of things going on in that space. And then that relationship fell to pieces, spectacularly, and probably the most painful way possible. And then from there on, then became the battle of rebuilding not only myself but also any kind of relationship I had with my daughter. In that space, which was always tight. So that was never really an issue for me. It was more just being there for her. And much like Benny said in his session, or in the last podcast, where he became okay with being alone and being that guy in that house by himself. And that's where I got to. I got to the point where I was okay being by myself and have my eldest when I was able to, and then go from there, basically. And that's where the revelations came, because once you get to that point where you are happy and accepting of where you're at and able to hand out forgiveness to those that have sort of brought on a bit of pain for you, and they're the bugbear of the pain, then that's where the magic happens, basically. And like we've spoken, like you and I, all you guys have spoken before, where we always lock down nutrition and movement. That was never a major thing for me because I had a lot of stuff hung over from being that fat kid that couldn't run more than level 5, 9 or something on the beep test at 16 years old. So I had a lot of stuff of that hanging over, especially when I topped out at 120 at 20 years old. Then I went, well, I need to get some shit done and get this sorted. That's when the nutrition and the movement kicked in, and I wanted to get into the brigade. So that was the be all end all. I had to push hard to get that. So once I'd built all them habits in, then that wasn't a struggle during that time. Didn't really drink too much anyway, so that wasn't massive. But it was more the headspace and trying to really get yourself off rock bottom. There was more the times than I'd care to admit about the ideation. There's one or a couple of times where I've told you guys, and I've told my missus and that now too, and obviously psychologists, because God knows I've had more than enough sessions with those over the last 6 years, and even before that with self-worth and different things that were going on in the family dynamic. Pardon me. And then it became about just working on that space and going, right, what is it that I need to do to build myself back up, and what are the things that I need to build and bring into that space. I started to become very spiritual during that time, and then work on a lot of meditation type stuff, a lot of self worth stuff. Going through, especially the psychologist I got now at the minute, we've done a lot of EDMR, and that's been very helpful. But also, it's also been helpful to speak with someone who has dealt with the relationships that I've had to deal with, not in her personal space that I'm aware of, but in different treatment spaces and things that she's had experience in that. So that was very helpful to be able to dive into that. And then there's some days where you go in, you're feeling okay, and then you come out and you feel like you're really heavy because it's been a heavy session, unlocking a lot of the stuff from the past, not just from your childhood, but even like I've gone way back into my early childhood days for different things. I've gone back into my early adulthood, I guess, and a lot of that stems from that lack of self-worth growing up. Not that it wasn't supportive at home, but it was just um, there was stuff that I wouldn't tell people, and I dealt with a lot of shit on my own, dealt with a lot of stuff, a lot of hurt on myself as well. And then even going through stuff with the bushies and stuff you see with on the job and all that sort of thing. There was when you reached out to different people who you thought were supportive of that, and you could reach out and go, look, I need to get this stuff off my chest, to be told that, yeah, I really can't help you deal with that because I don't like hearing that you're doing those things anyway. Then that I became someone who was able to just build it and do it myself. I went, well, you know what? If no one's there to help me, then I will save myself, because it's what you do, right? I was lucky enough not to go into the vices too deeply. I never took any drugs, not once. When I tell people that now, nearly 43 years old, they still laugh at me and tell me I'm full of shit, but I never have. Drunk a bit. There's been a few times when I've completely written myself off and wiped myself out for a few days. Not in the sort of late back end of adulthood, but early adulthood especially. I was always lucky to be playing sports and things, so I was always around decent fellas, which because we were always really wanted to succeed in footy and that too, even to whatever level we're playing. But we wanted to stick together, and you play the game not because you want to get on the piss, but because you want to win the grand final, right? So a lot of the guys that we were with had that same goal. Of course, we loved to drink because the pub sponsored the team at the time. So you'd be straight across the road on a Thursday night after training, and then you'd be there Friday, and then you'd be there Saturday as long as you weren't playing Sunday, and then you do it all over again. So that's where the extra kegs climbed on for me during that period. A lot of that, like I said, a lot of that self-worth really stuck in me with my relationships to a degree. First one, not so much. First one was actually pretty good. We just grew apart. We were kids, so we just grew our own separate ways. The next couple were actually quite rough and a bit horrendous especially when you look back now. And that's where hindsight's very 2020. And we say that everyone, it's a cliche. Everyone says that all the time. But when you look back at what you thought was normal and what you were led to believe was the way life was supposed to be, and you didn't question it because you thought you were happy because you thought that's what it was supposed to be, right? And then it wasn't until after you come out of that shit and you sit back and you look at what have I done wrong, and you reassess yourself, go through that that real spiritual awakening, get in touch with what is actually going on with your own core beliefs, and go on along with where you are headed and what you want out of life. Then that has been a big one for me, to be able to go, whoa, like the universe was teaching me something with these relationships. The last, my current relationship is great because same as you, Benny, I've done the hard work to get to that point. I got to that point where I was okay being alone. I knew I had my boundaries. I knew my self-worth by then. I knew what I was willing to trade off. I knew what I wasn't willing to trade off, and I knew where I could meet in the middle. Now, and even when I dated before this relationship, there was a couple of points there where I just went, no, you know what? I don't like what I'm seeing here. and I'm not going to pursue this past what it is, because I know where I want to be, and I don't think we're on the same page with this. So I need to pull it back and then look at it and go, righto, where is it that I want to be? What is it that I want to do? Because I've already built that self-worth up. And then this is where it's always continual growth, right? Because I thought I was flying back then. And then from where I was then to where I am now is completely different again. And it's like another 5 levels up. And that's only by one, shifting house and having to go through quite a lot of trauma that brought along with it, and not being able to see my oldest at all for nearly 2 years. That has been one of the hardest things ever, despite the conversations that we would have with her, and the things that we tried to get in place in that legal realm, and that was continually knocked on the head, and so that was all shut down. But going through that, and then also going through the stuff with the psychologist on top of that, and that has helped me look back as to the reasons why I ended up in that position, why I ended up there, what that universe was trying to teach me to get to that point, and then what I've learned since. A lot of that comes off the back of, again, relationships, and I've learned that even close family relationships haven't been the best over that period, over the period of life, and for different reasons. It's not always like one or the other, bang, bang, bang. It's not living with Pol Pot, but at the same time, there's been different things that have attributed to that, and then not being able to share different things, having to do a lot of stuff and self-soothing on your own, then you become very insular. You don't trust a lot of people, and like I said, that relationship that ended spectacularly, then I didn't trust hardly anybody at all for many, many years, because the trust was gone completely, not just out of that relationship, but out of every other relationship. And much like yourself, Benny, I flogged myself to death to try and do everything right, because this is what you do. You dig in, you shut your mouth. There's plenty of times you don't say things because it's not worth it, and you just go, you know what, okay. And when you're in that situation, you don't realize that that's not what it's supposed to be like. You don't realize that at all, because that's what you're living. You're living that every day, and it wears you down, but you don't actually realize the sacrifices and the stuff that it sucks away from you during that time. It's not until you come out of that and then you look back and you go, fuck, I've just lived a life for 16 years.
Yeah,
What
you
do I
do,
do?
mate.
Or not that
And
long. It was maybe
it's the levels of acceptance you get into too, Drew. Like your levels drop, and you accept substandard shit.
Mhm.
And
And then when you
this,
come up the other end and then you say all the things that were off about it, people like look at you and you go, "What? Why didn't you say anything for years?" And you go, "Well, I didn't realize, because I just you just accept things and you go, okay." And a little bit more of your soul goes, and a little bit more of your soul goes, and you sell a little bit more off each time without you knowing it. And then when you do turn around and say, "No, this is not right," then you get told that you're lying, and you just don't like different things of this person because of these reasons. And you go, well, that's not it at all. It's because I was completely fucking destroyed and crippled as a human, to the point where financially I was fucked, emotionally I was fucked, physically I was okay, but mentally I was fucked, to the point where I had like nearly 3 months off work, and ideation kicked in. And as we spoke about before, where Sal said before, like you'd go and do more and more things that make you feel alive. Not that I ever really did it too much at work, especially, but there were times during that period, like during that sort of 12, 18-month period after that, actually even longer, because there was different things that had happened, like with that same individual during the last few years. I remember being on top of, and this is a story I haven't told many. I've told my missus, and that's about it. There was one day where life was difficult, and you couldn't really see a way out, and it was just a bit shit, right? And I'd had thoughts of this, of things before that, and lined up things before, and I thought I was clear of all that. I'd already thought, okay, I'm sweet, I'm flying here, I've got a new relationship, I've got the job I always wanted, all that sort of shit. Everything's working along, but there was still this one little fight in the back, and you're going, man, I'm not happy with this at all, and there was no way out. there was no clear way out. And I felt like I was the only person. I was the one causing pain to more people than just myself. And so then you go, well, you know what? There's probably the easiest way out of for everyone, so there's no pain, is if I remove myself from this position, which is what a lot of people in that position think. Now, I can turn around and say that it's not the case at all. And I've actually listened to a podcast of a mate of mine from school. Used to live right down the street. I shared it with you guys at Christmas time, and it gave a good perspective of those that are left behind post suicide as well. And same thing. He felt that was his way to remove the pain, not just for himself but for everyone that was involved, was to take himself out of the situation. And the reason why it hit me is because as we know, I'm going through that similar kind of experience that he had gone through with his ex-partner and kids and things. So I was going through something very similar, which is what that podcast hit me really hard. Besides the fact that it was a mate as well, and his family that were talking about it. And on this day that I thought that, you know what, the easiest thing to do is just to fucking, if I'm not here, then the pain's gone for everybody, because there's like, I'm not copping shit from anybody, and then no one's having a cop shit because of me. I remember going to a job where it was a silo fire. Obviously, this has never happened since, and there's been plenty of water under the bridge gone, because it's been a few years ago now. But silo fires have a tendency to become explosive if shit goes wrong, right? So everyone's terrified and a bit scared about putting them out, which is fair, because there's been a few years back, there was some guys killed outside Rutherford in a silo fire when shit went a bit south. And then to put this fire out, we had the doors open. We did what we could do, but they couldn't reach everything. So the thing was to go up to the top with a big ladder boom and pour water in from the top. But they needed someone to open the lid. And then everyone stepped back about 1,000,000 miles, because they've gone, no, I don't want anything to do with it. And I sat there and I went, you know what? Fuck it. And put my hand up, give me the harness, let's go up the boom. And that was at that point, during that period of time, that was the way for me. That was one way that I went, you know what, if this blows up, then that's okay, because one, no one has to worry about paying for a funeral for me, but two, there was it takes everyone's pain away, because I'm not there in the middle. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. Shit tons of therapy's gone through, and it actually had nothing to do with work. So that was like, I've gone through therapy for stuff from work, but that's had nothing to do with this case. And it was just more a fact of, that was the circumstances that presented themselves, and that was the thought process that I had to get on that ladder boom and go and do my job. And that's where it's that doing something risky to take that numbness away and take that pain away. And you go, well, if something happens, something happens. And that was where I was back then. Obviously, there's been a shit ton of work go on, and a lot of therapy and things too. And quite honestly, working with you guys, not just you guys, but anyone that I've worked with over the years, working with them, working with all you men, has been enough for me to get that healing as well, because there's been guys that have been in similar situations. And I know that both you guys have been in similar situations as what I've been in as well. Not just work stuff like Sal, but also like relationship stuff. Like, both you guys have been in almost identical situations. And we were joking about it just off camera before, Sal, that when we were talking down at the coffee shop one day, when we were going through a few things, and like, it was almost to a T. It was a carbon copy. Like, it was as if we'd been written out of the carbon book and out of the timesheet book, and it was one page after the other, because it was exactly the same as what we both lived through. So by being able to help guys on those journeys, has been able to help me heal as well. And then also bring that forgiveness, even after all the shit. The forgiveness hasn't been for them. The forgiveness has been for me. And not just the people that are in different things, that one is still causing me a fair bit of strife and a fair bit of stress, and sadness at times. And as I said in the chat there the other day about having to go through some boxes and shit, and that broke me for a little while. But it didn't break me for quite as long. And it'll come, it'll ebb and flow, but at the same time, it's something that still I don't think will ever sit. That it would be one of those things that I'll forgive for myself, but I'll never ever forget. And it's probably a wound that will never heal for that one. But there are others that are all scabbed up and scarred over, and that's because I've had to deal with the things that were broken in me to be able to see what was broken in them, so that way I could go, you know what, it actually wasn't about me at all. It was about them exploiting something broken in me to be able to get to that point. And I hadn't learnt that from the universe yet. So that's why I've been repeating different cycles with things as well. So, and then obviously being someone who had to self-soothe and what's the word, like self-drive, I guess, or guide for so many years, then when you think you're on the right path and things are all falling into place. Obviously, it wasn't always hard because at the start of things, it's always really nice and everything's all fluffy and there's fucking unicorns pissing rainbows and shit, right? So that's where all that comes from. And you go, okay, but there's always something that feels a little bit off. And I could never put my finger on it for years and years and years. And I'm going back to I was like 2021, right? And then when you start to bring it all together and work out why there was all these different traumas that popped up, and they all stick there. They've all like that thorn in the side for a little reason, and then it gets infected, and if you don't deal with it, then it gets worse. And I had a lot of stuff like that build up, and then a lot of responsibility, even at a young age. I looked after my sister a fair bit because mum worked and dad was on his way home from work. Dad would get home about 5, I guess. So then it was just the two of us. So there was that responsibility of bringing that in early as well. I was captain of a fire brigade at 21 years old. So, look, 21 years old, you should still be out sort of pissing up, doing whatever it is, which we did. But having the responsibility of other people's lives in your hands at different times as well was something that I just rolled with it because I didn't know any different, basically. Because I'd been looking after my sister for a long time, and there was only the two of us, and self-soothing things as well. So that's where even now I still struggle to ask others for help, or I don't even lean into you blokes too much. And like you're my two of my best mates, and even my mate Mick down in Sydney. He's I've known the bloke for 17 years, nearly 18 years, and I've lived at his place going backwards and forwards and all that sort of shit over that time. And we've spent plenty of time together. But even then, there's still days where I'll shut down and deal with it myself, and then talk to him later on. The same as you. I know Benny and Sully, both of you guys. Every so often I get a text message going, "Are you all right?" You go, "Yeah, mate, I'm all right. Why?" I just haven't heard from you for a while. No, I'm good. You're going through some shit, hey? Yeah, I'll talk to you when it's done. All right, but just know, don't go doing anything silly because I'm right here. You go, I know, but I just and so I've always struggled with that and struggled with having people reach out and go and be genuine about wanting to help you, because there's been people in the past that have gone out there and I'll help you, and it's all a paper tiger. And you get there and you go, oh yeah, you got this in place, but it's actually all bullshit, and you're not going to help me out at all, or you have confided in somebody, and that what you've confided in them goes straight back to the source, or the source of the problem, and you just needed to get that off your chest, and all of a sudden you're hearing it from the person that you had the problem for, or have the issue with. So from that point, I stopped trusting anybody and dealt with shit myself. And it's still that's one of the hangovers of that. It's still me still reaching out, and Mrs. even now still says, I can help you with that. I know, but why didn't you tell me about this? Well, it's not your burden to carry. I had to get it out, and or you've got your own shit on, or stuff like that. So I still struggle with that, and that's something that just hangs over from that. But yeah, there was a time, much like the rest of us, where when everything you think you know is life just disappears or blows up in your face, and then you look at it at a deeper value, and you go, wow, like I was getting screwed over for quite some time, but didn't know about it. And then you really have, and that's where the self-worth thing comes in again. And you go, fuck, look, I was settling. I had no boundaries. I didn't have, I just let it run roughshod. And I wore a lot of shit over the years, for years and years and years. And this is across the board, basically. Not all the time, but often enough to build that little bit of extra in, a little bit extra in, a little bit extra in. And then what most people would start out with a bit of PTSD becomes CPTSD because it's just constant one. It's like well, just a nagging in a barbecue, or like a mozzie coming in, bang, 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 bang. You can't get the mozzie because you can't hit it, because if you hit it, it's just going to beat the shit out of you. But you just get there and you go, righto, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, and it winds you down. It wears you down to the point where you don't even know how low you are until you come out of it. And then even then, it's not until 3, 5, 10 years later that you realize that behavior is not okay. And then when you realize that behavior is not okay, and you're not having any boundaries, you're doing everything to be the people pleaser, then that's when everything sort of comes around. You go, whoa, from now on, I start to know my worth. I will speak up. There's still days now I don't speak up as much as what I should, but I speak up a lot more. And there's always, because it becomes a learnt habit and a learnt behavior that if you step outside the box, then it's not going to be, the consequences aren't going to be real good for you. So don't step outside the box and go from there. Which again then leads that back into your self-worth when you go, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to be able to do these things. I can't say these things because it brings this in. And then when you do speak up about it, then it does come at at another cost again. And you go, well, I can't sort of keep going around the circle. And then, as I said, you come out of that, you do the hard work, and you go, fuck, well, life is so much better on the outside once you've hit the bottom. And then you go, well, I can't go any further down from here. You look back at it, you reassess, or you assess everything that's happened. You take the blinders off. You look at it in the cold light of day, and you go, okay, yeah, this is where we're at. This is what we've experienced. What can we do now to stop that from happening again? Yes, and again, Benny, you said before, like you once you take off that victimhood, you go, righto, these are the things that I need to do for myself to be able to get myself in a better position, so I'm not running that victimhood again. Then that gives you the power within yourself to be able to go, right, this is where I'm going to go now. I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to sell myself short. I'm not going to do all these different bits and pieces. I will turn around and go, this is what's happening now. These are the things that I want to do. These are the plans that I want to take to get to that point, so I'm in that position. And basically, I will never, ever feel the way that I did ever again. And that was for a big chunk of most of my life. I felt that way. And obviously, it always comes back around. You don't beat the shit out of it, and it's done. It's not burn it to the ground and you're done. It's there's something always pops up later on. But then I quickly learnt that there are things that I won't sell for now, and there's things that I will not sell myself short on, and because I know that I deserve better in life. And you go, right, I deserve better in life because these reasons. And you sit back, and it only has to be one reason. But and it doesn't even have to be a big reason. It can be something tiny, but it's got to be one. You go, righto, this is what I'm looking for now. This is what This is what I deserve in my life. I don't deserve this shit that I've had to live through before, because it. And then as soon as you, again, like I said, you speak up to the wrong person, then the abuse keeps going, and then everything else keeps coming back around. And obviously, as the podcast goes on and different things come up and different topics come up, I'll go deeper into things. But at the moment, that's sort of a background of that. And then the last sort of 3, 5, sort of 3 years from now, been a little bit longer, but like within myself. But the last 3 years have really been on the pickup. And then just coming from the bottom, working my way back to the top is really getting there. So it's always a work in progress, but it's one of those things.
You're smashing it, mate. You're smashing life at the moment. And You too, mate. Just, yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. As I know first-handedly, you don't like to speak, and hey, it ain't weak to speak.
Yeah.
You know, like,
It is a good coin phrase and a great term, but yeah, look, I'm one of those ones that are lucky to be able to have that self-awareness of being able to process stuff without going into anything like not going in too deep, but taking myself down that path of ideation, where many blokes don't, because they'll let everything boil up and build up and build up and build up. Where I became very good at petitioning and going, right, I need to deal with this. Okay, now I need to deal with this. Now I need to deal with this, rather than trying to look at the thing as a whole and go, fuck, I'm done.
that's it.
Um, on my lowest days, that's where it was. You look at it everything at once and you go, fuck, I'm done. But if you can petition it,
So
which
many,
is what I used to be able to do.
you got so many fires burning at once, and you get stuck with which one you need to put out first. So, you know, one intrusive thought comes in and brings your attention to that thought, then another one will bring it into there, and pretty soon you don't understand which one's the most important or what priority you need to do it to get through today
Mm,
or to get through that next hour. You know,
mm.
fuck man, that was powerful, Drew. I fucking just want to give you, you know, we're big huggers, mate. I just want to give you a big fucking hug right now. Dead set. That was
Yeah.
fucking tough darts.
Oh, hell yeah, mate.
I
It's,
can feel it for you now, mate.
That's
I know
because you've
you.
been there too.
That's pretty much Drew at his fucking best right there. I'm telling you right now, I haven't seen him like that, and it's put me back a little bit, mate. Just quietly.
yeah, 100%, mate. Like, it's the big share, mate, and it's something good to, it's therapeutic. As hard as it is to speak it at the time, mate, it is therapeutic, and I hope you feel better for it, mate, because I feel, even though as well as I know you now, I know you're better again. And so all the listeners that got a fair opportunity firsthand to get to know the real Drew. And yeah, man, like some of that adversity, it sucks. And no one should have to deal with it. But going into what you're saying about the forgiveness side of things, and I didn't actually get a chance in the group to add to what was being said the other day, is that's probably one of my biggest things in stepping forward, is being able to forgive. And people say, oh, how can you forgive? Well, if
Mm.
I can't forgive it, I'm going to stay angry.
Yep.
And then I don't move forward. So you
Well,
don't have to forgive.
being
You don't
angry
have
is like sorry, being angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other bloke to die.
yeah, 100%, mate. And it doesn't serve you. And by being able to forgive, and I've had this conversation with a few of the blokes in the group that were messaging the other day, and by being able to forgive, you can get over it. You don't have to forgive their shitty side of the story, but you forgive the part that you played in that story, and you forgive to move forward. Because if you can't forgive, it's going to sit in front of you all the time, and there'll be no growth. And it's hard, I'm not sure how to word it properly, but without forgiving, you can't move forward, and you never have to see eye to eye that person or even speak to that person again. You forgive inside yourself, and
We talking more of an acceptance.
acceptance. It's a forgiveness, but it's forgiveness to accepting your part in your role that you played in that situation. And you got to forgive yourself for allowing yourself to go to those situations too, as hard as it is. Because even though, and this is what I found hard, is I allowed myself to accept what I accepted. Even though at the time you didn't understand or realize why, but I allowed myself to be treated like shit, like you did, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
You allowed it to happen
Yep.
because you didn't know it was wrong at the time.
Exactly. You don't know, and I remember at work, it was a little while. Like obviously, I'd come out of that relationship, and it was a little while before I'd had that time stood off for a bit, which was completely unrelated. By the way, that had to do with mandates and things. Um, but it was before that, and my boss at the time, he said he was working because he had a quarry job, a second job, and he was doing a job for this old bloke and his missus, and he said this bloke was just busted. You could tell he's just walking along, his shoulders were slumped, and he goes, "I just felt for the poor old bugger." And the bloke that I worked with, he turned around and he said, "Oh, I don't understand how blokes do that," and blah blah blah. You just tell them this and you tell them that, and you blah blah blah. And this guy, whilst I would never apply any of his schooling to myself or my kids or anyone that I know, in a way that he was right, because he wouldn't bend his whatever boundaries he had for that to happen, right? And I said to him, "I get it." I said, "I do." And then at the same time, there was a girl on shift, and her and I are like brother and sister, and she'd been through something similar with her ex-husband as well. And we both turned around and said, "Hang on, you can't judge that bloke for why he's like that now, because that never started out that way. That's just continual wearing down. You don't know what's happening until one day it's too late and you don't know any different." He's going, "Oh, no, I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all." I said, "But it's because you've never done that. You've never been that." And then I sat there and I thought, well, I wonder if that's what he's actually done in his relationships as well, where he's been that guy that has been the reverse of it. So not the one that does like it just sells everything off, but the one that has someone else sell everything off for them as well. So that way,
He's worn her down and he's
exactly,
broken her, so she's probably walking around with her shoulders down around her
yeah,
around her
yeah,
ankles.
yeah. And I'm probably speaking out of school because I've never actually met his partner and things either, but just the way he fired up about it and the way he carried on about it, I went, this is a bit of a trigger for you, mate. There's something going on here. And where like we just straight up said to him, no, like when you're in that position, you don't know. And it's not until you come out of it that you go, man, what the fuck was that? And then when
Yeah.
you and even now, like if you take it to court, and so I've brought this stuff up in the family courts and things, and they call you a liar. And you get there and you go, well, I'm not lying about any of this stuff that happened. And they go, no, you're just not, you just can't handle this. And you go, well, it's not that I can't handle that. I said that behavior is wrong. I didn't know it at the time because I accepted it. Now I look back and I go, what the fuck was I accepting? And they call you a liar because you never brought it up. And I went, how's it any different to a woman who has had 15 black eyes and 5 broken arms over the course of 5 years, who never ever reports it, and then ends up killed from the bloke that's just given her a touch up and painted the fence with a head? Like it's no different. It's just because it's not physical doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But then because you're in that position that you go, righto, well, and you don't know any different, and you become conditioned to that, then you don't actually understand what's happened either. You go, well, fuck. It's not until you come out and you go, wow, like I learned something hard. And if you don't learn something hard, then you go back and you'll go back through that relationship again, or you'll go back through that same cycle again. And that's where I went, you know what? I'm breaking this cycle. And it's taken a lot of hard work. And then even with there's family that I'll keep at bay because it's been it's a similar process. So I go, okay, I can see what's happening here. And so I have boundaries in them relationships now. And you go, that's where it sits. Okay, cool. Yep, no worries. See ya. I'll talk to you next week or whatever. Like that's and sometimes it sounds harsh, but other times it's completely feasible as well for that to happen that way, due to the fact that you realize what you were selling yourself off before isn't worth that. So you go, no, I'm not playing that game anymore.
Going back to what we were talking about before about, the learnings you get from the universe, mate. It's taking you to go through that tragedy and trauma several times to learn from it. And now you've learned from it. You've got your boundaries, you've got your acceptance levels.
Yep.
And you're happy now.
Mm.
And you can see that in your person, mate.
Oh yeah. Well,
Massively.
thanks, Benny. Because like we've known each other that whole time as well, and so it was that hits me, man. So
Yeah.
'Cause I've known you that entire time that we've gone through all that whole process, and even
Oh
before,
yeah,
and then gone from there. So that means a lot.
because it was that when we went and climbed that big mountain.
Mm.
That was when it was all going. That was when it was all raw. That was when it
Yeah,
was.
that was real raw.
Yeah,
Especially wasn't when I wasn't able to actually speak to my eldest at all, and that was that hit me hard when we are up that mountain too. And I left a lot of stuff up on there, and then
yeah,
went up there again. 2 years later, I left a lot more stuff up there, and then yeah, it's not a mountain that I'll need to climb anymore. But it's yeah, still something. There's always something you can drop off somewhere.
yeah. But
Where
no,
was it?
be proud of yourself, brother. Be proud. Seriously. Isn't it funny though? Like we look now and we go, here we are talking about feelings.
Mm.
Here we are talking and sharing. Men never used to do this.
Nah.
And that's one of my biggest things for having the idea of this podcast is probably mainly to show other blokes out there that it's okay to get yourself in a safe space
Mm.
so you can share these things.
Mm.
And by finding a safe space, which you've created through, Reignite, hopefully it's going to give a lot of people chances not to go through what we've been through, mate.
Well, that's
I think it's
one thing. Sorry, Sal. Well, that's one thing that I learned through the whole process, and I've spoken to blokes not just within the other place where I was coaching, but also in Reignite, and even guys that I've spoken to outside of all of that. If what I've had to go through is a blueprint for somebody else to be able to thrive from, or be able to duck and weave and learn the signs, to not have to go through that, then my job is done. Or if it's come to a bloke where he has had to go through something similar, but my story or I'm able to help him somehow to get back on track and to reset and to find it, and not have to go through the period of time that I had to go through, and for that extended period of time, maybe even build quicker or rebuild quicker, then I've done my job. And that's like everyone has like they always ask, what's your purpose in life and all that sort of stuff. Again, like go back to being a kid, I was always the rescuer. I always wanted to be a rescuer. Always want to make sure I did the right thing. join the bushies at a young age. Join the fire brigade as soon as I could. And then that's what I thought it was, and it still is. It's still a big part of my identity. It's still a big part of me because I love it. It's such a great job. But then also after going through that, if I can help someone not have to go through that, or help someone to make sure that they've got their own boundaries in place to not have to deal with that kind of stuff, or someone who's gone through it, I can help him rebuild after that. I've done my job.
100%.
I'm more inquisitive regarding these learnt behaviours that we keep repeating that are blind to us. You know, like you were saying before, when we're a kid, we're taught to please. You
Mm.
know, where does that come from? It comes from our family. It
Mm.
comes from our mother. It comes from how our father relates things or shows us how to care for things. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it builds us into a into a mode that's what all we know, but we
Mm.
don't know that sometimes that's wrong. Um, I've also been with, like you, Drew, with the football. You know, if there's anyone you can rely on, it's a mate you're belting people next to week in, week out. You know what I mean? And but back in our realm, mate, we had no talk about feelings, emotions, what was going on at home or anything like that. It was more about who's rooting who and how many drinks we've had that week, or who's going to bash who on the weekend. Like,
Mm.
and that's what it was about, just hanging around each other, and then going back to those same modes that we knew and that we struggled with, but when we were with our mates that we thought we could talk with, it all went out the window, and we were all just put on the face to be that person again until we were by ourselves, and we'd sit there and suffer again, going, "Fucking, why is this happening to me? How am I feeling like this
Mm.
when I've got all these good things going on?"
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
And it big thing comes out to
His
what
kids are
you
using the
said
internet.
is, fuck, am I good enough? Am I good enough? You know,
Mm.
it's a major thing. Am I good enough? Am I looking bad at,
Mm.
at looking bad from people? You know, um, it's just so easy to 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 shut down and just keep it within yourself without having to say it. And you know, even in our families, you know, who was there ever in that time someone that we could go to if we wanted to? Everyone said, "Oh, you know, you can always fucking come to me and say whatever if something's bothering to you," but you fucking never would.
No.
Otherwise, they'd think you're a witch. Sorry, I've put a word in, but I'm passionate about this sort of shit. Like people need to be able to know that you're not right and ask the question in as to whether what behavior I'm doing or what mode I'm in
Mm.
is questionable. Or to be able to say, "Hey, mate, I think you're going a bit hard in here. What's that about?" You know,
Mm. Mm.
no, you're going pretty forceful, you know, on this sort of thing. You know, where's that coming from?
Mm.
It's got to come from your learnt behaviors from who's ever been with you
Mm.
when you're growing up, and that needs to be explored and unpacked. And that's, I think, what you're trying to say is where we're at, where we do unpack our past and those situations, and then put meaning towards why we were like that and why we accepted it.
Mm.
No?
Exactly. And sometimes that's the hardest revelation of the lot. And you go, well, why was I doing that? Why would I sell myself short? Why was I in that situation? And you're always trying to chase something. You're always chasing acceptance. You're chasing whatever carrot is being dangled out the front. And then even recently, I read a thing, and actually, no, it wasn't. It was my mate Mick. He sat there when we were talking one day, and he goes, "You know what? It's no one's business what they think of me. Like, no, it's not my business what other people think of me." He goes, "I don't give a fuck." He goes, "Like I've got my way, and that's it.
Yeah,
And you're either with me or that's okay. You got your own space." And I went, "You know what? That's perfect."
what is that saying? It's what people think of me is none of my business.
Yeah,
But you know, it does matter because
yeah, to everybody.
we're, you know, we just want to please mum. We should
Yeah,
come home and the house is clean, because every time we do something, she jumps on us to say, Why'd you put that there?" Or whatever. Or you come home and clean something or whatever just to please,
mm,
you know, and
yeah, we're
know that
built that way.
you'll be happy when she comes in. You're trying to, you know,
Mm,
trying to set a happy environment.
yep, happens everywhere.
Yeah, things stem from that. From
Mm,
like that.
That's something good about NLP with timeline therapy, boys, too. Like, it unpacks a lot of shit from when we were in the womb, from when we were 0 to 5, 6 years old. That's
mm,
when most of these things are deep set into us. And that's where, we can unpack all your anger, fear, hurt, and guilt, and sadness, because most of it comes from when you're a little boy. Most of it comes from when you're inside the womb. So you can unpack a lot of that stuff from when you're young, and that's when it's all deep set into you to make you into who you become as a young adult into further life. It's just like, excuse me. Unfortunately, we don't get given the tools that, as you've been saying, so to talk to anyone, or we don't have the confidence in ourselves to be able to open up to people through trust issues, through not being safe.
Well,
I was going to say a lot of that comes down to trust.
Yeah.
that stuff we're talking about, where you said something, they'd look at you funny. They think if you said something, they look at you really funny and just, not that you would. It's just what their actions was in the workplace. You're in a workplace where, you know, like Irene, you're in the cops, right? You said anything about how you're feeling or whatever like that, mate, it's game over. So that even, what do you call it? Even enforced what you'd learnt when you were younger as well. So going into that, so that's, well, what's the word? Suppressed. That's suppressed.
Yeah.
All of those thoughts that you had before that you thought you dealt with, but you couldn't really even do that.
Mm.
So, but
I don't know what it's like now with the younger guys to a point. I know blokes sort of from 30, 35 up, they feel very similar to what we do, because I guess we grew up in the 70s and 80s and 90s even, where it was that you never popped your head up. You just tried to please everyone all the time, and it didn't work out too well. I know that there are some younger generations that are better at sharing stuff, and like when you go on the socials, they share fucking everything from what they had for breakfast that day to how many times they took a shit. But um, there's some there that they're happy to sit around and have the conversations that we never had, and we should have been able to have when we were younger, so that way, with anybody, not just like a select few, because we needed that. Like there's none of that back then, and I can only imagine what it would have been like for our parents' generations, where if you had a bit of a moan, you got met with a backhand, and like, that happened anyway. But well, not really, but like in that generations, that's what you copped, and then that's what I said, Benny, about pardon me, where guys didn't even know how to iron a shirt, and we like where you go back a few years, everyone knew how to iron a shirt because they never had to do it before because their parents are doing so much for them now. Well, that's a byproduct of how we were brought up, because it was kind of like the school of hard knocks, and then there was things that you had to learn on the run and do yourself and just deal with yourself, rather than having someone there alongside you. So now it's our generation now that's got to try and find that gap in the middle and try and find the middle ground where we can sit and share, still make sure that everyone has responsibility and accountability, because everyone fucking skips out of that these days, and then go, righto, this is how I'm going to be able to share and get in a better spot. And this place just give me a fucking clip up here because I was carrying on like a tart. Now I go, okay, yep, no worries. I'll take that on board, and I'm going to change my behaviour or change something that has upset that person. Like as long as it's within reason, right? But we need to be able to share. We need to be able to have that time where we can have that bit of a space, but also accountability and responsibility comes in to be able to bring that together in a cohesive environment.
100%. Those two key words you just said then, mate. Accountability and responsibility.
Well, everyone seems to dodge it like fucking it's dodgeball. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge responsibility, apparently. So people do that everywhere.
That's where I went wrong, mate. I wasn't real good at ducking.
duck, weave, and duck.
And I weaved and ducked. Dyslexic as well. I couldn't read and write the right way.
Japanese, you go from the top to the bottom.
Yeah. That's mad. That's mad. Has it warmed up yet, Sal?
Cool.
Has it warmed up yet, Sally?
I got chilled at the footy.
Yeah, I was just saying that it looks beautiful in the background there, mate, and you are shivering up there.
You go to the football in shorts and then realise that was a mistake, and you're just cold to the core. But I should be, I should be a lot better coming from Canberra, far out. But you know, you're acclimatized to other climates. I don't get that. People say, "Jesus, you're cold. You're from bloody Canberra." I'm going. Left there 20 years ago.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've only been here 3.5, and I'm one of the worst now in the cold. We had a couple of mornings there last week that are like 8 degrees. I've got me jumper, me fucking big bloody rain jacket on, and I'm sitting there with a beanie on, shaking. You're gonna look at me going, "You're from fucking Victoria, mate." I said, "Yeah, well, fucking not from there now." Like,
It's funny when Sal said, "Mate, you're from Canberra. What are you whinging for?" I remember saying that to you a couple of years, last year, year before. We went out to we were at Tweed there, met up the top of the hill there, and we're going for a bit of a walk right down to Kira and back, and he's running down up and down the hill, bloody like a lunatic, getting all his maps up on his gadget, and it was cool. It was breezy. It was rainy, and he pops up out of the bushes wearing full skins, thermals, a jumper, a beanie, and a hoodie. And I just stood there and went, and I had shorts and a t-shirt on. I went, "Mate, are you for real?"
Mate, I come up the day that you do acclimatise and then you realise and you're going to go, "Oh."
I'm still sitting here in shorts and a t-shirt now.
And I've got tracking socks. I've only got a t-shirt on because I'm in the house.
I did have a jumper on 2 nights last week. It got cool. It did get cold.
He's starting to get there. He's getting there, so.
I had the sleeves up though.
I remember when I come up from Canberra in 2000, early 2000, I was on the glass truck and come up and I've got shorts and a singlet on. And the boys are in the factory in July and they got beanies, jumpers, tracksuit pants. And they're going, "Oh, yeah, here we go. Someone, where are you from, mate? Like Phillip Island or something?" Ah, Canberra, mate. Mate, the next year, I had all the same shit on. It was weird, but you're an exception. I thought you'd at least a year later you'd be on par, but now don't know what's going on there. Must be that big engine, far lap engine you got inside you, I reckon, keeping you warm.
Oh, wow.
Only bloke I know to walk around mountains and doesn't even get a heart rate into the second zone.
No one's told him he's got to turn it over to get the heart rate, Regan.
Maybe I don't have a heart. Who knows?
But you've been told that before.
Yeah, by the wrong people.
That's it. That's
All
it.
them people we were talking about.
Well, what do you reckon? We wrap her up there, guys, and
Yeah, I just
get
want
Sally on the next one. I reckon we'll.
one more probe. When you're in that, say, 15 to 20 zone, Drew,
Yeah.
was there anyone in the realm that you could talk to other than, you know what I mean?
Nah.
People, nothing. It's just a big gap, isn't it?
It's a massive gap, and that's I had one of the boys message me yesterday.
Or have someone as a mentor, you know, some
Yeah,
mentor you look up to go, shit.
yeah. Well,
I
there
want
was
to be
there was
like
none of
this.
that.
How do I, you know?
There was none of that really. Even I had one bloke when I joined the bushies, or a couple of guys actually, they were pretty good at mentoring to a degree, but then still like weren't sort of living real healthy lives at the time and all that sort of shit too. So like, you can only really say or take on so much, and you get there and you go, well, like I still love the blokes, and I still love the experiences we had, but there's like the same thing. Like there was always something that you wouldn't tell absolutely everybody, or you wouldn't tell them, or you wouldn't. There was a gap there, and that's where we need to find a way to fill them gaps for blokes, because even if it was just someone that's been through something similar can find perspective, then there'd be plenty of blokes out there that would still be alive today. And I know quite a few that have been those blokes that if they had someone in their corner and just add a different perspective, then they'd still be hanging around having a beer today. But there was none of that, and that's where a lot of this. That's why I was working at the other place, was because there was none of that sort of support for dads when I had my eldest. There was none of that. There was so much like yourself, Sal. You're the lone wolf dad in the park with the kids, like during the week because you're a shift worker, and then everyone's looking at you like you're a weirdo because you're at home with the kids, and you go, "Well, come on, man! Like this is a bit shit." So that was one of the reasons why I was doing what I was doing there, and then like obviously there's no, you identify that there wasn't anything when we were around, and there's still really a big sort of a hole there for that now. So it's more trying to find a way that we can expand that community, be able to go, righto, let's get some like-minded men in and go, righto, how are we going to get that and expand our reach into blokes, regardless of age, and go, righto, this is, mate, come along the journey. We're going to have a chat. We'll get this moving, different perspective. Such and such has been through something similar. Let's get him on. Such and such has done this. Let's get them on as well. Or get that person in for a chat and go, what do you need? And then go from there. So that way we can build that, because like, there was really nothing like that when we were growing up.
No, there's nothing like that. And geez, I was probably 42, I reckon, Drew, and I reached out to the group, and if I'd have known something probably 10 years earlier, when I was looking for help when I was at my low points, I would have reached for it. But there was nothing.
Before there was internet, what was there?
Yeah,
Salvation.
Yeah, that's it. And
Yeah.
I suppose, as much as I hate,
Rotary Club.
and they were all the same old blokes that you were too afraid or didn't have the confidence in to speak to.
Yep.
To get any help. So there was nothing really. There was nothing.
Well, even now, there's different things that there are some really good resources out there for men, but at the same time, their ability is limited due to, I want to say, funding, and that sort of stuff too. So they are great. They are really good, but at the same time, they can only help you so far. Then you got to go into the next realm. Then you got to go into the next realm. But if we could get greater awareness and help at the lower level before you get to that crisis point, then that's where the difference lies.
It just starts from chatting about, mate, how you going this week? How's your week? What's been bothering you?
That's it.
Things like that. Just little starters that you can do and that can open the door. I've done that to some bloke down the road. Mate, he wanted to bring me home for bloody dinner one time. I'm going, mate, it's just a passing comment. Just for a conversation, but you can really realize how much value that,
100%.
stuck or just lost, like we've
Yeah.
been lost and sitting on that bloody hamster wheel, rolling round over and over again, thinking that someday it's going to be better. Well, shit ain't changing unless you change it, because, mate, that hamster wheel will just keep going around and around and around and around.
Yep.
And you don't know when to get off until it breaks.
Then you're fucked.
It breaks or you break, one of the two.
Yep.
Poor fucking hamster gets big and fucking fat. So what do? I think it comes from that education, and they're doing a lot to do it. But like you said, I don't think they've got the funds or the things, or even guys to open up freely like that. Where, thank God for the internet for that only purpose, is to bring people in where they can sit behind a computer type of way without feeling that bloody confrontation and having to get out of the car and go and fucking say hello to someone, because you couldn't be fucked doing that. Hate people, life, and fucking everyone else. You know what I mean? So,
especially when we don't like being around a lot of people either.
It's a true story.
Even now, there's still a lot of times I'll sit in the coffee shop in a position where I can see out of the windows and out the
Oh,
doors.
you know it. I'm in the other corner.
I never forget that day we were at the coffee shop down here at Miami, and and there was you, Luke, and I, and we were sitting against the back wall of the coffee shop, and everyone's going, "What are you doing sitting up over here?" We're going, "Well, because we can see everything from here."
Yeah, we can see the enemy.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, you fellas.
Eyes out everywhere.
I'm surprised we haven't dived any rabbit holes yet, so I reckon we're going pretty well.
No, we can't scare people off too soon. Leave the rabbit holes there ready.
That's true. Like you're saying, you got to go down to the bottom to be able to see what's shit from clay.
Yep.
That's true.
Sometimes you don't know when that bottom is.
No.
That's when you just got to stop digging.
Yeah. But talking to other people, that's the answer. Talking to people when you're like that. So
That's it. Quite often, conversation can make someone feel a lot better and make their day a lot better, mate, just by having a chat to them. So it's
just like the other day with the lady with the shopping trolley, mate. That might have sparked a conversation with the person next door to when she went home, mate. There's this bloke down there to abuse me over a shopping trolley. I'm having the worst day ever. And that could have been something beneficial for her. It might have ticked off something, you know what I mean?
as long as it went that way, you'd be right.
I've got to find a positive in
As long as the feds weren't knocking on the door when you got home, you'd be fine.
Yeah, nah, not this time.
Great work, gents.
That's another story. All right, guys. Mate,
All
thanks.
right. Yeah, thanks, Drew.
No worries at all.
Keep
Thanks
kicking
very much,
goals.
boys.
All right. We'll wind that up there, guys. Thanks for listening again, and we'll be back with another episode very soon. We'll get to the bottom of Sully's rabbit hole and the way he's climbed back out to the top. Yeah. Take it easy, guys, and we'll see you all soon. See you, boys.
Thank you.